Before we begin this night prayer, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. I don't have the words tonight, God, not the right ones, not the full ones, not the kind that explain what this ache is or why I feel like I'm brimming with something I can't name. There's a silence inside me that isn't peace. It's more like a quiet confusion, a soft overwhelm that's too slippery to hold and too loud to ignore. And still, I know you see it. You're not waiting for me to spell it out. You're not demanding clarity before you meet me here. You're already looking at what I can't bring myself to say. You already understand the language of my unrest. And somehow, that's enough. Maybe tonight isn't about the right prayer. Maybe it's about being real with what I don't know how to articulate. Maybe it's enough that I've come to you without performance, without rehearsed sentences, without trying to impress you with faith. I'm too tired to feel. If I could put it into words, I might say I'm tired. But not just physically. Tired, like something inside me has been carrying questions for too long. Tired, like I've been holding my breath, waiting for relief that hasn't come. Tired, like I've tried to be okay in all the ways I thought I should be. But I'm not. Not tonight. And I don't know if I need answers or if I just need to stop pretending I'm fine. I'm not fine, God, but I'm here. And if my presence is the only prayer I can offer, then let it be enough for now. Sometimes I think silence is what I deserve when I can't pray clearly, as if my own inability to speak should be met with distance. But you don't work like that. You are not a God who waits on perfect articulation. You are the one who knits meaning into the unspoken, who hears sighs as prayers, who holds tears as testimony, who listens even when I can't speak above a whisper or when there's nothing left to say at all. Tonight, I need you to be the listener who doesn't flinch at my stumbles, the witness who doesn't grow weary of repetition, the God who doesn't walk away when the conversation falters, because my silence isn't a lack of love. It's just that I don't know how to give shape to this season. I feel like I'm trying to untangle a knot in the dark, and all I'm doing is making it tighter. The more I think, the less I understand. The more I try to fix it alone, the heavier it gets. And maybe I've forgotten that I was never meant to carry all of this alone in the first place. Maybe this weight I'm feeling is partly mine and partly made of all the things I've refused to let you hold. Because somehow I convinced myself you wanted clarity and confidence. But what if you've only been waiting for honesty? What if you never asked me to be composed, but just to be here? Raw, worn, real. What if showing up as I am, uncertain, wordless, but present, is the most courageous thing I could offer you tonight? So I won't force words that aren't ready to be said. I won't patch together phrases just to feel like I'm doing something holy. I won't dress up the ache with religious vocabulary. I'll just let it sit here with me, and I'll trust that you're sitting too, that you're closer than breath, that you're not afraid of the mess of my emotions or the blank pages of my prayers. If anything, this is the very place you love to meet me. The undone, unpolished middle where nothing is finished and everything feels fragile. You know how to hold this part. You know how to be God, even when I'm not sure how to be myself. There's comfort in that, even if it doesn't fix everything. Even if nothing resolves overnight, even if I wake up tomorrow with the same uncertainties, there's comfort in knowing that tonight I'm not alone in the in-between. You're here, and you're not pacing impatiently, waiting for me to get it together. You're not checking a list of things I should have prayed for. You're just present, patient, attentive, loving me, not in spite of the silence, but through it. And if you're still here, then maybe I can breathe a little easier. Maybe I can stop apologizing for not having more to give. Maybe I can just rest. It's strange how freeing it feels to be seen and not expected to perform, to be known and not corrected, to be quiet and still counted as present. You're not measuring me by volume tonight. You're not comparing me to a past version of myself who had more energy or more eloquence. You're just holding space for the person I am right now. And that person is bruised, weary, full of things unsaid. But she's also here. And maybe that's more sacred than I thought. Maybe this version of me, the one that's not performing, not pushing, not trying to impress, is the one you've been waiting to embrace all along. So come close, God. Come into the quiet, into the cracks, into the fog. Come into the moments where I reach for you not with confidence, but with trembling. Come not to demand more, but to remind me that I'm already enough, that my presence matters to you even when my prayers don't make it out loud, that you see what I can't say. And that's not a reason for shame. It's a reason to breathe, to loosen my grip, to stop striving, to let myself fall into the softness of your gaze and the safety of your understanding. I don't know how this night will end. I don't know if sleep will come easy, or if I'll lie here for hours, feeling the weight of things unresolved. But I do know you're near, and I know you won't leave because I'm silent. I know you don't love me less when I'm not strong, and maybe that's what I needed to remember all along, that I'm still yours, even when I have nothing beautiful to offer. That being held doesn't require being eloquent. That prayer can sound like silence, like stillness, like staying. So I'll stay, and I'll let you see me. Not the version of me I try to be, not the version who has it all together. Just this one, this human, this heart, with all its scattered pieces and half-finished. And if you can love this version of me, if you can still call her beloved, then maybe I can learn to love her too. Maybe tonight can be a turning point, not because everything gets better, but because I stop hiding, because I stop waiting to feel ready before I let you in, because I trust that you already see, already know, already care, even when I can't say it out loud. And so I'll close my eyes, not with a perfect prayer, but with a quiet yes. A yes to being seen, a yes to being held, a yes to believing that even my wordless nights matter to you. You see what I can't say, and you stay. That's more than enough. I don't know how to translate this ache into syllables. I've tried before, tried to name it, to frame it, to wrap it in sentences that made sense, but every time the language slips away like water through fingers. There are no clean definitions for the kind of tide I feel, no tidy expression for this soul weight I carry, but you still read it, don't you? You still look at the heaviness behind my eyes and see a story you already know by heart. You don't need my explanations to be thorough. You don't ask me to dig up reasons or rehearse my pain in front of you. It's enough that I'm here with it, that I'm not running from it, not covering it with noise, not pretending it's not there. I've brought it to you bare, without filter or disguise, and somehow, in your presence, even the unnamed starts to soften. I used to think I had to come to you with some kind of offering. That prayer needed purpose, structure, resolve. But I don't have those things tonight. I don't even have clear thoughts, just fragments. A swirl of hopes and regrets, of things I wish I could change, and fears I'm trying not to feed. I don't know how to sort it all out, but maybe I don't have to. Maybe you're not waiting on me to organize my emotions before I lay them down. Maybe you're just glad I haven't walked away. Maybe this quiet, jumbled presence I'm offering is more sacred than I realize. Not because it's eloquent, not because it's confident, but because it's real. There are shadows tonight that don't have names, doubts that feel both small and overwhelming, wounds that don't bleed but still ache. I don't always know where they come from. Sometimes I think I'm okay, and then I lie down in the quiet and it all catches up to me. The things I pushed aside during the day, the the feelings I didn't have time to feel, and there they are again, waiting in the stillness, asking to be witnessed, not solved, not shamed, just. And I think that's what I'm asking of you tonight too. Not to fix me, not to lecture me, just to see me, to be with me in the quiet, where everything unspoken still matters. It's strange how often I forget that you're already looking into the places I try to hide, that nothing I withhold is actually hidden from you. You've always seen the rawest parts of me, long before I tried to make them presentable. And still, you choose to draw near. Still, you see the tears I don't cry. Still, you hear the prayers that never make it past the lump in my throat. I don't need to be articulate to be heard. I don't need to be whole to be held. That's a truth I forget when I'm deep in my head, trying to make sense of the ache. But it's a truth I cling to now, when the only prayer I can form is a heartbeat, a breath, a barely there whisper of help. So help God, not with solutions or strategies, but with presence, with the kind of nearness that doesn't demand anything from me, with the kind of love that doesn't flinch when I'm unfiltered, with the kind of peace that doesn't ask me to explain myself. I want to stop performing. I want to stop thinking I have to make my pain sound beautiful before I bring it to you. I want to learn how to rest even when the healing hasn't come, to breathe, even when clarity hasn't arrived, to trust, even when the path forward is dim. I want to remember that you are the God who meets people in caves and deserts and prisons and storm-tossed boats, not because they had the right words, but because they had a heart that reached out. And my heart is reaching out, even if my voice isn't, reaching out from the mess, from the confusion, from the ache that has no name. It's reaching out with a kind of exhausted hope, the kind that doesn't expect fireworks, but still believes in a flicker of light. It's reaching out with a small but stubborn belief that you are here, not just above me, but beside me, that you don't need fanfare to move close, that you don't need a polished prayer to respond, that you don't need me to know what to say before you choose to speak peace over my chaos. Maybe that's what grace sounds like in the dark, not a booming declaration, but a whisper that finds me in the gaps. Maybe grace isn't loud, it's just steady. And maybe that's why I can still feel you here, even though everything inside me feels uncertain. You're not rattled by the things I can't say. You're not surprised by the silence. You've always made room for the parts of me that feel unfinished. You've always known how to gather the broken and make it whole, not through pressure, but through presence. Tonight, I give you all the things I can't translate, the feelings I don't have labels for, the stories that hurt too much to revisit, the fears that show up in disguise, the dreams I'm too scared to name. I place them in your hands. Not because I think you'll fix them instantly, but because I trust that you'll hold them gently. And maybe that's what I need more than resolution. Gentleness. The kind that doesn't rush me. The kind that lets me exhale. The kind that knows when to sit in the silence and when to speak softly into the soul. I've spent a lot of time trying to be strong, trying to hold it all together, trying to explain myself, even to myself. But tonight, I just want to be held, not corrected, not analyzed, not given a list of things to do differently, just held, just known, just loved exactly as I am in this moment, wordless, restless, raw. And if you are who you say you are, then I believe that's already happening, that you're already holding what I can't articulate, that you're already surrounding the softest parts of me with unshakable kindness, that you're already here. So I will stop trying to turn silence into sentences. I will stop measuring my spiritual worth by the eloquence of my prayers. I will stop shaming myself for the things I can't explain. And I will rest, Not because everything is okay, but because I am not alone. Because even when my voice fails me, you do not. Because even when I fall silent, you still speak love. Because you are God, and you are near, and you are not afraid of the dark. And that changes everything. There's a part of me that still wrestles with the idea that silence can be sacred, that not saying anything is not the same as saying nothing. I've lived so long trying to fill the quiet with words, words to explain, to defend, to earn affection, to make sense of what hurts. But I'm learning that there is a holiness in stillness, too. That sometimes the most faithful thing I can do is to not pretend, to not mask the trembling, to not force gratitude when I'm grieving. And you are not offended by my honesty. You are not turned away by my silence. You are not waiting for polished prayers to call what is broken beautiful too soon. You let me come undone here. You let me just... I don't want to be afraid of the quiet anymore. Not when you're in it. Not when you fill it with the kind of love that doesn't demand performance. Because when I fall into that trap again, the idea that I need to be articulate or composed for you to stay, it only leads to exhaustion. And haven't you already shown me that you don't need grand gestures? That you've always chosen to dwell in the low places, the in-between spaces, the dark rooms where I sit with my thoughts and cry without knowing exactly why. That's the mystery of you. You don't need explanations. You're not confused by my confusion. You're not impatient when my soul stutters. You stay in the tension, in the ache, in the stillness. You stay when I don't have anything left to offer but a heart that won't stop reaching. And that heart, mine, it's not as steady as I want it to be. It's easily overwhelmed, easily tired, easily caught in loops of what if and what now. But tonight, I let it be seen, as I won't tuck it away or polish its edges. I'll let you see it as it is, soft, scared, hopeful, hesitant. I'll stop telling myself that you want a braver version of me than the one who's here, because I think if I'm quiet long enough, I can feel you whispering something different, that this version is enough, the one who doesn't know what to pray, the one who can't wrap words around pain, the one who doesn't have a plan for healing. She's not too much for you. She's not a disappointment. She's not falling behind. She's beloved, and that's not conditional. I keep thinking about all the ways I try to make it make sense. The spiral of thoughts, the inner narratives, the desperate need to understand what's happening in my life before I feel safe enough to trust again. But trust doesn't always come on the other side of clarity, does it? Sometimes trust comes first, in the dark, in the murk, in the moments when nothing is explained and everything feels fragile. It's a choice. A soft, trembling choice to believe that you are still good when I can't see the evidence. That you are still for me when I don't feel worthy, that you still understand me when I don't understand myself. And tonight, I need you to meet me in that kind of trust. Not the shiny, triumphant kind, but the hidden kind. The kind that sits in the dark and reaches for your hand without needing words. The kind that says, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know who you are. The kind that lets the silence be a sanctuary instead of a sentence, that lets the unspoken be an offering instead of an absence, that believes you are moved by tears just as much as by declaration, that you read every exhale, every long pause, every tight-chested breath as part of a prayer you don't need me to write out loud. I don't want to be fluent in faith-sounding phrases if it costs me honesty. I don't want to wrap up my soul in language that sounds neat but hides the real wounds. I want to be here with you, even if it's messy, even if I cry without knowing why, even if the only thing I can say is please or not. Even that, you know my heart. You knew it before I formed it into sound, and you've never once required perfection. You've only ever asked for presence, for willingness, for trust, for surrender, for the kind of closeness that doesn't run when things get quiet. So I'll stop running. I'll stop scrambling to explain myself. I'll stop looking for the perfect prayer to make this night feel meaningful. And instead, I'll let the quiet be enough. I'll let the ache breathe. I'll let you love me here, in the dark, with nothing in my hands and no speech on my tongue. I'll believe that you're already surrounding me with kindness, that you're already interpreting the language of my restlessness, that you're already responding to prayers I never said out loud, because you are the God who sees beyond words, the God who lingers beside bedsides where the only sound is breathing, the God who walks through sleepless nights with no expectation of eloquence, the God who isn't waiting for me to come around, but who's already kneeling beside me, whispering, "You're not alone. You never were. Even when you thought the silence was empty, it was filled with me." And that's enough. I won't ask for signs tonight. I won't ask for answers. I'll just ask that you stay near, that you continue to see me where I can't speak, that you keep being the God who loves first, who stays long, who listens deeply, that you keep turning these quiet nights into holy ground where I don't have to do anything but be real, be human, be heard. And I'll lie here now, breathing slowly, letting your nearness be the thing that carries me through the wordless places, letting you love the version of me that has nothing left to say, but still wants to be held. There's a strange kind of peace that settles when I stop trying to be understood and simply let myself be known. Not in the way people sometimes mean it, with half attention and polite nods, but in the way you know me, in the way that feels like being searched and still safe. I don't have to explain why the ache lingers tonight. I don't have to justify the tension in my chest or trace the roots of every fear. You already see it. You already know where the thread begins and where it frays. And still, you're not here to fix me like a broken machine. You're here to love me like a soul worth staying for. And that changes everything. I used to think vulnerability meant weakness, that if I let the cracks show, it would scare you away or somehow make my faith less valid. But you've never asked me to be unbreakable. You've never demanded that I hide the places that still tremble. You've only ever asked me to bring them, to bring my rawness, my wordlessness, my confusion, my quiet grief, my honest presence. And you call that worship. You call that enough. You bless that silence as sacred ground. Tonight, I'm choosing not to apologize for the quiet, not to shrink under the weight of my own exhaustion, not to believe the lie that I should have outgrown this kind of fragility by now. I am here, and that is not nothing. In fact, it might be everything, because being here means I haven't turned away. Being here means I still trust that you're listening, that you still count these quiet nights as holy, that you're still watching over every breath, not like a guard, but like a gentle friend who knows the shape of my breathing and calls even my sighs sacred. I don't want to rush past this. I don't want to numb out or distract myself until morning. I want to be present with you, even in the discomfort, even in the questions I can't answer, even in the emotions I haven't fully named, and want to sit with what's real, not what's rehearsed or filtered or expected. I want to be a person who lets you in, not just when the story is wrapped in beauty, but even more so when it's raw and unfinished. I want to believe that you are not just God in the victorious endings, but God in the pauses, in the stammering, in the nights where nothing is resolved but something is still redeemed, simply because you are here. There's something freeing about knowing I don't have to narrate this night for it to matter. I don't have to write my pain into poetry or shape my doubts into neat, digestible prayers. I can simply lie here, and that can be enough. The very act of being still in your presence can be my offering, and you accept it. You meet me in it. You don't need me to create a moment. You are the moment. You are the sacredness that enters into silence and makes it shimmer with your closeness. And that's what I'm leaning into now. Not words, not resolutions, but you. Because the truth is, even if I found the perfect sentence, even if I spoke with the clarity of the saints, it wouldn't make you love me more than you already do right now, in this wordless hush. Your love isn't waiting on my eloquence. It isn't earned by my insight. It doesn't rise and fall based on my ability to explain what I feel. Your love is constant, unwavering, intricately familiar with every part of me, and yet entirely undeterred. You love me not in spite of my silence, but through it. You read the spaces between my thoughts and call them precious. You hold what I don't have words for and whisper, I know. And maybe that's what I need most tonight, to hear that, you know, even if nothing changes, even if sleep doesn't come easily, even if the weight still lingers come morning, just to know that you're not confused by my silence, that you're not tired of the way I struggle to speak, that you don't roll your eyes at my uncertainty or grow cold at my hesitation. You simply stay, and you know, and somehow, in that knowing, there is a kind of healing that words could never bring. So I won't try to fill this space with anything artificial. I won't pretend to be further along than I am. I'll just let you meet me here, in the quiet that speaks of volumes, in the tension that tells the truth, in the stillness that feels both fragile and holy. I'll let myself be small and human and tired, and I'll let you be big and kind and near. I'll let the silence speak what I can't, and I'll trust that you're listening just the same. Because you are not a God who waits behind walls of doctrine or polished phrases. You are not a God who withdraws when the conversation gets quiet. You are the one who steps closer, who enters gently, who waits without pressure, who hears what hasn't been said and still responds with love. And if I believe that, truly believe that, then I don't have to be afraid of the nights when I fall silent. I don't have to judge my prayers by their word count. I don't have to panic when I don't have a plan for how to feel better. I just have to be here, to let myself be seen, even in the shadows, to rest in the assurance that you're not asking for more than I can give, that my silence is not a failure, but an invitation, an opening, a doorway through which you enter and do what only you can do. Make even the wordless beautiful. So stay with me, God. Sit in this silence like it's a song. Read the spaces between the beats of my heart and call them good. Wrap your nearness around the ache and make it holy. Let this unspoken moment become a sacred place, where nothing is required but my presence, and nothing is withheld from me because I have no words. Because you see what I can't say. I didn't expect it, but the silence has started to soften. Not disappear, just shift. It still holds weight, but it no longer feels like punishment. It no longer feels like being forgotten or left without answers. It feels like space. Space to be. Space to feel. Space to not know and still belong. Because the more I sit here with you in this quiet, the more I begin to believe that this twos is a language you understand, that this stillness, with all its unsaid truths, is not a void, but a vessel, a place where you pour yourself into me, not through thunder, not through fire, but through presence, through a love so unassuming. I might have missed it had I kept trying to fix myself first. The pressure is easing. I'm not clenching so tightly around my pain anymore. Not gripping every emotion like it's a test I have to pass before you'll listen. I'm letting it unfold, letting the tiredness exist without needing it to become a lesson tonight, letting the tension rest without demanding resolution. There's no need to rush to healing, not with you. You are not in a hurry. You're not pacing the floor of heaven waiting for me to pull myself together. You're sitting here with me, not above my silence, but inside it, breathing with me, holding what I still can't hold on my own. And maybe that's the miracle. Not that the ache is gone, but that it's no longer mine to carry alone. I realize now how much I feared being incomprehensible, not just to others, but even to you. As if there were parts of me too deep, too twisted, too dark to be seen clearly, but that fear doesn't hold weight in your presence. Because you don't need decoding. You don't demand clarity to extend compassion. You never look at the blurry parts of my heart and ask me to sharpen them before you draw close. You come anyway. You stay anyway. You bless what I barely know how to name. It's hard to say how long I've carried this shame about being wordless in prayer, like I wasn't doing it right unless I had a flow, a tone, a shape to offer. But you've been showing me something different, that communion doesn't require commentary, that intimacy with you often blooms best in the absence of noise, that maybe the most powerful prayers are the ones I never find the words for, the ones that rise from the ache, from the quiet surrender, from the simple willingness to let you look straight into what I don't dare speak. And tonight, that's all I want, to be known without performance, to be loved without explanation, to be seen without strategy. I'm letting you read me as I am, not as I hope to be, not as I once was, just now in this version of myself that still aches, still wonders, still searches. I'm not editing for you. I'm not hiding my unspoken. I'm letting it breathe, letting it rise to the surface, slowly, if it wants to, or stay buried for now, if it needs more time, because you're not rushing me. You're not demanding breakthroughs. You're just here, just present, just utterly, miraculously kind. What I can't say, you already hold, the buried sadness, the longings I'm afraid to want out loud, the confusion that coils through my thoughts when the lights are low and the world is quiet. You know, you knew it before I did. And not only do you understand it, you aren't disillusioned by it. You aren't disappointed. You don't flinch. That's something I never really believed until now, that you could know everything and still draw closer, that nothing hidden scares you, that nothing tangled drives you away. I don't have to pretend to be brave in front of you. I don't have to sanitize my fear before I show it. I don't have to summarize my sadness like a thesis to prove it's valid. You take it all, raw, messy, stammering. You take the full weight of what I don't know how to carry, and you don't lecture me for having it. You don't try to turn it into a lesson right away. You just hold it. You just stay. And there is something healing in that. Something I didn't expect to find in silence. So let this night stretch on. Let the words stay quiet if they need to. Let this holy hush settle over my spirit like a warm blanket. I don't need a breakthrough to sleep. I don't need an answer to rest. I just need to know that you're here, that you're not going anywhere, that this silence is not empty. It's full of you, full of your breath, full of your watchfulness, full of your care, full of the assurance that even what's unspoken is sacred in your sight. Maybe I'll find the words tomorrow. Maybe I won't. Maybe healing will come slowly, and that will be okay. Maybe I'll continue to feel the weight some nights more than others, but I won't confuse that weight with abandonment anymore. I won't let silence convince me you're absent. I'll remember tonight the way you showed up without me having to beg, the way you listened without requiring eloquence, the way you whispered peace into the parts of me that only knew how to tremble. You see what I can't say, and you call it enough. You call me enough, and you stay. That's the kind of love I didn't know I was allowed to ask for, but it's the only kind of love that could ever change me. So I'll rest here now, unspoken and unafraid, because you are here and because you understand. It still catches me off guard sometimes, the quiet security of being fully seen and not scolded, of being entirely open, even in my inward chaos, and not met with tension or disappointment. There's no tightening in your presence, no sharp inhale, no stepping back, just calm, just nearness, just the steady truth that I don't have to be better for you to want me close. And I'm realizing now how long I've measured my worth by my usefulness, by the clarity of my thoughts, by how well I could present my emotions. But tonight I am not useful, I am not clear, I am not composed, and still you come, still you hold this unspoken place as if it was sacred, because to you, you don't rush me past this silence. You don't urge me to get to the point. You don't fill the space with advice or reminders of what I should be doing. You just stay. And somehow, without any words exchanged, I feel steadier, not fixed, not transformed, just steadier, like something under me has shifted from fragile ground to something solid. Not because the feelings have left me, but because I know now I'm not carrying them alone. And maybe this is how healing begins, not in noise or sudden revelation, but in the quiet courage to stay with what hurts long enough to let you sit in it with me, to stop fighting the discomfort and stop pretending that silence is failure. There is such dignity in being still and allowing myself to be known, even when the knowing is uncomfortable, even when it stings a little, even when I'm afraid of what you might see, because you have seen and you haven't left, not once. If anything, you seem to draw nearer the more I struggle to speak. The more I hesitate, the more tender you become. I can feel it even now. This gentle weight of your attention, like a blanket laid over an anxious soul. No force, no expectation, just presence. And the strange thing is, the longer I let myself rest here with you, the more unnecessary my explanations begin to feel. Not because what I carry doesn't matter, but because you already carry it too. You already know. You already understand the stories behind the sighs and the reasons behind the quiet tears I didn't want to admit were falling. I don't have to put a name to everything. I don't have to categorize each ache before you will tend to it. You don't need to sort the clean pain from the messy or the justified sorrow from the misunderstood. You treat it all with tenderness. You gather every fragile piece, every vague weight, every complicated feeling, and hold it as if nothing is too trivial for your compassion. And that more than anything undoes me. Not a sermon, not a formula, just the unwavering kindness of a God who never once turned away from what confused or overwhelmed me. And it makes me wonder how many nights I've missed this slow unfolding of trust, because I was too busy trying to figure it out first, trying to be impressive, trying to earn peace by the weight of my words. But here in this stillness, I'm learning there's no earning required. Peace isn't purchased. It's given, quietly, freely, as a gift. I didn't know how much I needed until I stopped trying to deserve it, until I finally just sat down in my own silence and let you see me. And now that you do, now that I know you do, it's like something fragile inside of me has been allowed to exhale. I'm not holding everything so tightly. I'm not defending myself from being misunderstood. I'm just letting it be. Letting it live in this space between us. Letting you be God enough to know what to do with it, even when I don't. Because you are God enough. You don't need my perfection. You don't need my articulation. You don't need my spiritual performance to find me lovable. You already decided that I was, even when my strength runs out, even when my thoughts are scattered, even when the pain I carry feels old and tired and pointless, even then, you're still whispering. I see it, and I'm not going anywhere. And I believe you, not because I feel worthy, but because I've never seen you lie. Never once. And if you say I can rest even here, even now, even without the words. I want to believe you, so I'll rest. Not because I've finished thinking, not because the weight is gone, but because you are here, and you are enough. I'll close my eyes, not because the day makes sense, but because I trust that I don't have to make sense of it alone. I'll let the silence stretch on a little longer, not as emptiness, but as invitation. Because you fill the silence with yourself. You make it sacred. You make it soft. You make it safe to be wordless in the dark. And if I wake in the night with the ache still lingering, I won't panic. I'll remember that you are still awake, still listening, still loving me, not with conditions, but with consistency, still holding what I cannot name, still reading every breath and every pause like a prayer. You've already begun answering. You see what I can't say, and you stay, not just patiently, but joyfully. Like my presence matters more than my eloquence, like my heart, though tired, is still holy to you. And if that's true, then maybe I can let it be true for myself, too. Maybe I can call this silence beautiful. Maybe I can call this night enough. I keep thinking there must be a limit, a threshold where your tenderness stops, a point where my silence becomes too long, or my inability to explain becomes too much. But no such line exists. I've searched for it. I've tiptoed toward the edge of my own brokenness, thinking this must surely be the moment you step back, the place where your grace starts to thin, but it never does. The deeper I go, the closer you get, the more tangled the ache becomes, the gentler your nearness feels. It's not pity, it's not tolerance, it's love, pure, unflinching love that refuses to leave just because I've lost the ability to describe what's hurting. And that realization undoes something in me. Not in a dramatic falling to my knees way. It's quieter than that. Like something loosening under the surface, some old rigid part of me that always believed my value was tied to how clearly I could present myself. It's melting, softening, making room for a different kind of truth that maybe I'm most myself when I stop trying to be impressive, when I stop trying to turn my emotions into poetry, when I stop trying to turn pain into a project. Maybe I'm most open to you when I let the silence speak honestly and without apology. Tonight, the ache is still here. It hasn't vanished just because I acknowledged it, but it feels less sharp. Not because I've solved it, but because I've stopped fighting it alone. Because I've let you into the places I didn't even have language for, and you didn't demand an explanation to stay. You didn't wait for me to make it meaningful. You just came close, closer than thought, closer than breath. And now that you're here, I can't imagine how I ever mistook your silence for absence. There's such tenderness in how you sit with me, not to change me, not to correct me, not to remind me of what I should be doing, but just to be near. I think I used to fear the silence because I thought it meant distance. But now I'm starting to see it as a kind of sanctuary, a place where I don't have to explain myself, a space where I can stop performing, where I can breathe without having to prove anything, where I can be tired without shame, where I can be unsure and still safe. I wonder how many prayers I've forced into words that weren't ready to be spoken. How many truths I've tried to wrap in sentences because I thought they'd only matter if they were articulate. But you're not moved by eloquence. You're moved by honesty. You're moved by the bare, trembling heart that dares to stay open, even when it has no idea what to say. You're moved by presence, by willingness, by the fragile trust that shows up empty-handed and says, "Here I am anyway." So here I am again, God, still wordless, still feeling more than I can name, still waking in the middle of the night with a heart that beats faster than it should, still wondering what it would feel like to have all this emotion turned into something clear and clean and resolvable. But clarity doesn't always come quickly, and tonight I'm not asking for it. I'm not even asking for answers. Just for you. Just for more of you in the places I've been afraid to bring you into. And you're already here, already waiting, already whispering into the silence that I thought disqualified me. I'm tired of holding my breath to see if you'll stay. You always do. It's me who slips in and out, who doubts and questions and tries to prove I'm worthy of being heard. But you're not watching my every move with suspicion. You're not keeping score of how well I've prayed this week. You're not comparing me to a better version of myself. You're just here, loving, listening, holding space for my silences like they matter, like they're music. You don't need me to write down. And maybe that's the lesson you've been teaching me all along, that prayer is not performance, that you are not impressed by flowery words or structured requests, that you don't draw near because I say the right things. You draw near because you love me, because you made me, because you know the exact shape of my silence and still want to hear it again tonight. So I'll give it to you. Again. All of it. The heavy feelings that don't translate into speech. The memories that surface when the lights are off, and I think I've already processed them. The fears that don't have names yet, but still live in my chest. The longing for comfort I can't always define. I hand them over, not as a gesture of surrender, but as an active relationship. Because I trust you with what I can't explain. I trust that you'll hold it kindly, that you'll keep sitting beside me even when the silence stretches on longer than I expected. And if I forget tomorrow, if I fall back into thinking I have to earn your attention, I'll come back to this moment, to this quiet, to this sacred, wordless exchange where everything I couldn't say was still heard, still held, still honored. You see what I can't say, and you don't just stay. You listen, you draw near, you make space, and somehow, without a single word, you remind me I belong. I think part of me always believed you needed my clarity before you could comfort me. That, unless I could name what I felt or trace the edges of the ache, I was disqualified from peace. But this night has said otherwise. Not with volume, not with signs, but with a hush that holds. I didn't come to you tonight with a polished version of my struggle. I came with blank spaces, with weight I couldn't weigh. And yet, here I am, still breathing, still here, still with you. And somehow, that's not only enough, it's sacred. You didn't require a script. You didn't ask for a breakthrough. You asked for me, just me. Not a version of me who had already figured it out or already felt better. Just the soul in the quiet, the one who wasn't sure what kind of prayer this even was, who only knew she didn't want to be alone in the ache. And you welcomed her. You welcomed me, fully, softly, steadily. I think that might be what healing looks like sometimes. Not sudden release or grand epiphany, but the ability to sit beside pain without demanding it go away, and to know you're sitting with me. To feel no pressure from your presence, no should have, no why aren't you. Just presence, just peace, just a nearness that isn't trying to fix, but simply to be. It's strange how that changes everything, how that shifts the weight, not by removing it, but by sharing it, holding it with me in a way that makes it less sharp, less threatening, less mine alone. I used to come into these moments with so many expectations, what prayer should look like, what I should feel by the end, how I should sound, but none of those old rules belong here anymore. Not when you've made it clear that you don't abide by the systems I built out of fear. You never asked for a perfect heart. You asked for a whole one. Not in the sense of already healed, but in the sense of undivided, the kind that shows up even when it's confused or bruised or grieving. And maybe this is what wholeness looks like tonight. Not a tidy soul, but an honest one. A soul who stopped trying to earn what's already been given. A soul who sat down in the dark and didn't try to light it up with answers. A soul who stayed still long enough to feel you draw near. Not because of anything she said, but because you wanted to come close. I don't know how to explain that to anyone else. I don't even know how to explain it to myself. But something in me has shifted. I feel it. A loosening, a quiet release. As if I've finally stopped trying to force my soul into neat sentences and just let it be human in front of you. And you met me there, not reluctantly, not as a last resort, but with joy, with full attention, with no hesitation. So I'll let this be the shape of my prayer tonight. Not words, not insight, not theology, just being, just trusting that you can hold what I can't carry, that you can understand what I can't explain, that you can comfort what I don't even know how to mourn. I've run out of speech, and yet the conversation hasn't ended. Because you speak the language of the unspoken. You've always understood what lives beneath the surface. Even now, I feel you closer than before. Not because I did something right, but because I stopped pretending, because I stopped searching for the right thing to say, and just let myself be here, fully broken and breathing, quiet and still beloved. This silence isn't empty anymore. It's full of you, full of all the things I've been afraid to speak and all the compassion you've wrapped around them. I used to dread these wordless nights. Now I think I might need them, because they remind me that you're not drawn to me by what I can articulate. You're drawn by truth. And sometimes silence is the truest thing I have. So, I'll close my eyes with nothing more to give. I'll let the hush stretch out into sleep. I won't try to squeeze in a final phrase to make it feel more complete. I won't treat this time with you like a performance that requires a proper ending. I'll just lie here and let the presence I can't see but feel so deeply hold the rest of the night. You see what I can't say. You don't need anything more than that. You just stay. You just love. And I just rest. Even now, as the night grows deeper and the world grows quieter, I can feel something different settling into my chest. Not certainty, not understanding, but something slower, truer, acceptance. Not of answers I've received, because there were none. Not of clarity, because my thoughts are still as tangled as they were when I first laid here, but of you, of your nearness, of the way you keep filling this wordless space with something more healing than anything I could say. Not because I found the right prayer, but because I stopped searching for one. I simply let you find me. And you did. There's no part of me that's hidden anymore, not even the places I haven't named aloud. Not the quiet disappointments I carry, like bruises no one else sees. Not the griefs I've tried to minimize, because they didn't seem large enough to grieve. Not the fear that feels too irrational to admit. You see all of it. You read the aching subtext of every breath. You watch the way my chest rises and falls, not just for the rhythm of it, but for what it holds, for what it's trying to carry without breaking. And still, you don't interrupt. You don't reach in to rearrange me. You just remain. And God, that remaining, it undoes me in ways that nothing else can. I've known people to walk away from things they didn't understand. I've walked away from myself before, numbed out, shut down, pretended I was fine when I wasn't. But you never do. You don't back away when the light in me dims. You don't need me to shine in order to stay. And I think that's what I was always afraid to hope for. A love that isn't dependent on how clearly I can speak or how consistently I can feel. A love that lingers in silence and calls even that communion. Because that's what this is, isn't it? Communion without words. without bread, without ritual. Just me and you and the invisible thread of trust holding us together. And the longer I stay in this space, the more I begin to believe that this might be the most honest version of prayer I've ever lived. Not because I got the theology right, but because I stopped hiding. Because I let the silence say what my voice could not. And what it says is, I still want you here. Even if I can't say why, even if I don't know how to begin. And your answer, it isn't in thunder, it isn't in dramatic signs, it's in this stillness that won't leave. This quiet presence that keeps warming the corners of my spirit. This peace that I can't trace to logic or explanation, only to you. I've been waiting to be enough in my words, enough in my strength, enough in my understanding. But what if I already am? What if I've always been? Not because I earned it, but because you said so. Because you decided long before this silence ever settled in that you would stay no matter what it did or didn't sound like. And now, here we are. Not on the other side of a miracle, not after a triumphant cry, just here, in the dim, in the hush, in the not yet healed. And still, you're God. Still, you love me. Maybe I needed this kind of night to see that. Not a night of declarations, not a night of sudden resolution, but a night of being seen and not fixed, held and not hurried, known and not corrected. I used to think healing came only when something changed, but I think maybe it begins the moment I realize I don't have to change anything to be worthy of love. I just have to stop running, to stop silencing myself with shame, to stop deciding for you what parts of me you can handle. And that's all I've done. I didn't bring clarity. I didn't bring strength. I brought silence. I brought presence. I brought a heart too tired to explain, but too hopeful to hide. And you didn't turn away. You stayed. You've been staying the whole time. I don't need the words to come back tonight. Maybe they will tomorrow. Maybe they won't. That's not the point anymore. The point is that I don't have to fear the space between what I feel and what I can say, because you've built a home there, a resting place between the spoken and the known, and you've invited me to rest too. So I will. I'll rest in the mystery. I'll rest in the love that doesn't require a voice. I'll rest in the holy stillness of being understood without needing to explain. I'll rest in the gentle truth that you've been listening all along, even to the silence. Especially to the silence. I don't think I ever really believed silence could be love until now. I thought love had to come with sound, with whispers and assurances, with clear words that land softly and explain everything away. But this night has taught me something different, that the deepest kind of love is the one that doesn't need to fill the air, the kind that sits in the shadows without a clock, the kind that keeps showing up even when I can't, the kind that waits without pressure, the kind that leans in without needing a script, the kind that holds me even when I've forgotten how to ask for it. And you, God, you are all of that and more. You don't need my noise to know my heart. You don't need my phrases to know my ache. You don't need my breakdown to validate my need. You are simply here, not as a guest, not as a visitor, not as a God who's checking in on me, but as someone who has made this quiet place home. You're not uncomfortable in the silence. You made it. You fill it. You know how to wrap presence around absence like it's the most natural thing in the world. And now that I've stopped resisting it, I can finally feel what I didn't know I was aching for. Not relief, but rest. Not answers, but arms. Not clarity, but closeness. I used to think stillness meant nothing was happening. But maybe this stillness is the very center of everything. Maybe this is where things begin to uncoil. Maybe this is where the weight becomes less sharp, not because it's gone, but because it's shared. And I never even had to ask you to share it. You just came. You just carried it. You just knew. And I can't help but wonder how long you've been doing that, carrying what I couldn't say, watching over what I thought I had buried too deep, protecting the parts of me I'd silenced for so long, hoping they'd just dissolve with time, but they didn't. They waited, and when they finally rose again, you were still here, still ready, still unafraid of how much space they took up. There's no part of this heart you haven't already seen. No memory too distant. No wound too irrational. No fear too small. No part of my silence too strange for you to understand. I know that now. And the knowing has done something to me. It has gentled me. It has made room in me where there used to be pressure. It has let breath return to places I didn't realize were holding their breath. And for the first time in what feels like ages, I'm not ashamed of the quiet. I'm not trying to fill it with anything. I'm not trying to rush toward resolution. I'm letting it be what it is, a space that you call holy. And because you call it holy, I'm learning to call it holy too. This pause between the questions and the answers, this hush between pain and peace, this still trembling part of me that can't name what I need, but still dares to come close to you. It's not a failure. It's faith in its most fragile form. And somehow, that's enough. Somehow, you meet me there, not reluctantly, but joyfully. Not as a last resort, but as your first choice. You never needed me to be articulate. You only ever wanted me to be real. So this is real. This night, this silence, this ache that I've stopped trying to convert into something useful. I'm not here to impress you. I'm not here to be good at prayer. I'm not even here to find answers anymore. I'm just here because there's nowhere else I want to be when I feel this raw and this unsure and this human. I've tried to handle so much on my own. I've tried to push through nights like this with podcasts and noise and distractions and plans, but none of them knew me. None of them stayed. None of them could love me in the places I couldn't name. Only you could do that. And you did. You are. You will. So tonight, I don't need to wrap it all up. I don't need to end this moment with a conclusion. I don't need to summarize what I've learned. I just need to say what is true. I'm here. I'm seen. I'm safe. Not because everything makes sense now, but because I've stopped needing it to. Because you are enough, even when the rest isn't. Because your presence is the peace. There's nothing to prove anymore. Nothing to earn. Nothing to construct out of thin air. I can lay here with a mind that still flickers with unanswered questions and still be loved. I can let the silence last longer than I ever thought I could bear and still be understood. I can speak nothing at all and still be heard. Because you don't just tolerate my silence. You honor it. You meet me inside it. You don't just listen to words. You listen to hearts. And you've heard mine. Every beat of it. So I'll drift into sleep now, not because everything is resolved, but because I'm not alone in the unresolved. Not because I'm strong, but because you are gentle. Not because the silence is gone, but because you are inside it, breathing with me, loving me, staying beside me. There is something holy in how you've stayed. Not just once, not just in the bright moments of praise or the poetic highs of faith, but in this, in the long blank hours where nothing rises, where no words form, where my soul folds into itself like a closing hand. You stayed, and now, this silence no longer feels like something I have to get through. It feels like something I've been allowed to enter, invited into, even like a sanctuary that doesn't ask me to stand tall, but welcomes me to lie down, to let go, to be small and still known. I lie here in this quiet space, no longer bracing myself against the fear that I'll be left unseen, no longer trying to shape my inner world into something more understandable. You see it all already. The contradiction of needing comfort and not knowing how to receive it, the ache of wanting to be healed and the fatigue of chasing after it, the way hope flickers just beneath my exhaustion, too gentle to demand attention, but too alive to ignore. You see it all. You don't need the perfect angle. You don't require clarity. You're not collecting evidence. You just remain steady and certain in the middle of my wordlessness. And this changes the way I think of love. 'Cause what else could love be, if not this quiet presence that doesn't flinch when nothing makes sense, that doesn't correct or withdraw or sigh with impatience? What else could love be but this, a God who leans close when I fall silent, who stays, not because I deserve it, but because that's who you are. I think I've spent much of my life trying to deserve love, trying to make my prayers worthy, trying to shape my sadness into something meaningful so that it wouldn't feel like waste. But not everything broken needs to be repurposed right away. Not every ache needs a moral to justify its weight. Sometimes it just needs to be witnessed, and tonight you are the witness. Not demanding, not judging, just gently watching, gently guarding, gently staying. And the longer you stay, the more I feel myself soften into trust, not because you've given me a sign or a word or a promise, but because you haven't left. Because in the silence that once felt empty, I now feel surrounded. Because in the place where I once tried to fill every second with meaning, I now find that meaning has come quietly and filled the space without asking for attention. It came in the form of presence, of stillness, of a God who doesn't measure me by my words, but meets me in my need. So maybe this is enough. Maybe being with you is enough. Even if no words ever come, even if I never find the right way to speak the things that ache, even if the only offering I have left is this slow breath and this quiet heart that refuses to pretend. I used to think I had to come to you with something to say. Now I know. I only have to come. That even when I don't come, I'm already found. You're already here. Ahead of me, within me, around me. Listening before I ever open my mouth. Loving before I even look. Your way. How could I have missed it for so long? How could I have thought the silence was proof? You turned away when really, it's the place you've been waiting for me to meet. There's something sacred in not being okay and still being allowed to belong. There's something healing in lying here without words and knowing I'm not failing. There's something freeing in realizing that I don't need to create a moment of transformation. I don't need to force growth out of pain. I don't need to declare something profound to make this night worth something. It's worth something because you're in it, because I'm in it. Still here, still breathing, still opening to you, even in silence. So let this be the closing of the night, not with a final thought, but with permission. Permission to be unfinished. Permission to be quiet. Permission to sleep, not because everything is light, but because I am no longer afraid of the dark. You are in it, and you are not going anywhere. Whatever I couldn't say tonight, you heard. Whatever I didn't know how to feel, you felt with me. Whatever I was too tired to name, you saw, and that will always be enough. Not just tonight, but always. Not just in this season, but in every one to come. You see what I can't say, and you stay. And because of that, I can sleep in peace. I don't know how to describe what's left inside me tonight, now that the striving has stopped. It isn't clarity. It isn't resolution. It's quieter than both of those. Softer. It feels like something that has been holding its breath for too long has finally exhaled. Not all the way, not completely, but enough. Enough to let rest in. enough to stop resisting what is, enough to let you be here with me without needing to understand what you're doing or where this is leading. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe you never needed me to figure it all out. Maybe you just wanted me to stay long enough to let the silence speak. Not because it had something profound to say, but because it didn't. Because silence itself is a form of trust. Because quietness can hold as much weight as 1,000 prayers when it's full of presence. And this one is. This silence isn't a vacuum. It isn't the absence of you. It's the fullness of you. It's where I'm finally empty enough to let you fill me. You don't ask me to clean up before you come close. You never have. You come to the middle of the mess, to the unsorted parts, to the rooms I still haven't opened fully, and you knock gently, not to be impressed, but to be let in. And the remarkable thing is, you don't demand anything when I do. You don't rush in with rearrangements and plans. You just sit. You sit in the same place I've avoided. You settle in where I've been most uncomfortable. And slowly, without effort, your presence changes everything, not by fixing it, but by dignifying it. I used to believe that if I couldn't pray, I was somehow cut off. That if I didn't have language, I didn't have access. But you've shown me something much more honest. That prayer isn't always upward. Sometimes it's inward. Sometimes it's the very act of staying present, staying soft, staying open, even when the heart has no sentences left. And in that, you are more present than ever. In that, I find you most clearly, not through certainty, but through surrender. And I suppose this is surrender, not a dramatic letting go, but a quiet one. A nightly laying down of what didn't find form, of what didn't make it into words. A sacred release of everything I couldn't carry into speech. A trust that you'll hold what I couldn't, that you'll interpret what I didn't know how to offer, that you'll remain with me through what I'm still learning to name. I've come to realize something else too. It's not just that you stay, it's how you stay. Without pressing, without urgency, without that edge of spiritual tension that sometimes tells me I'm not doing enough. You stay like a steady light, low and warm and close to the ground. You stay like breath in a quiet room. You stay like one who understands what most people overlook. The depth of what goes unsaid, the ache behind a glance, the hope buried in stillness, the longing in a breathless pause. And when I think of how many nights I've carried that ache alone, I don't feel shame. I feel relief, because I know now I never truly was alone. You were there, even when I didn't know how to let you in, even when I didn't know what to ask for, even when I filled the quiet with distraction, because I feared what might surface if I just let the silence be silence. But you were already in it, already loving what I hadn't yet dared to look at, already whispering comfort into rooms I had closed off. And maybe tonight wasn't about finding answers. Maybe it was about finding you again, right where I thought nothing was happening. Maybe it was about learning that trust doesn't require sound and that love doesn't need articulation to be real. Maybe it was about coming to the end of my language and discovering that you were still listening. So this is the place I'll stay tonight, not with a solution, not with a revelation, but with the slow, quiet relief of not needing to speak to be seen, with the strange and tender strength of knowing that even the invisible parts of me are held, with the gentle confidence that when my voice returns, you'll still be listening, but that even now, while it sleeps, you are here. I don't know what tomorrow will ask of me. I don't know what feelings will rise or fade, but I do know that whatever comes, I'll meet it from a different place. The place made softer by this night, made fuller by your nearness, because something in me has remembered what I keep forgetting, that I'm never too far, too quiet, too unsure to be known. So I close my eyes, not with the pressure to rise, changed, but with the permission to rest exactly as I am. No more fixing, no more forcing, no more shaping myself into something that sounds holy. Just this heart, this breath, this sacred silence. You see what I can't say, and you call it holy. And because of that, so do I. There's nothing left to do tonight. No more effort to make, no more phrases to search for or prayers to piece together. Just this deep stillness that no longer feels like failure, but like arrival. Like coming home to a part of myself I had forgotten was worthy of being seen without explanation. And to a God who never once needed the words I couldn't find in order to call me beloved. Because that's what you've done. You haven't waited for my strength to return before you entered the room. You haven't stood outside the door of my silence, hoping I'd speak first. You've already come in. You've sat down on the floor of my soul and made yourself comfortable in the very place I thought you wouldn't want to dwell. And now, with everything quiet, with the pressure lifted and the proving ended, I can finally feel how long you've been here, how near you've stayed, how completely you've understood what I couldn't voice. In that understanding, it has healed something no words ever could. Because it's not just that you saw me, it's that you stayed after you did. You saw the confusion, the bruised places, the tangled questions, and the weary breath, and you didn't flinch, you didn't retreat, you didn't ask for more clarity, you simply chose to remain. Not as a silent judge, not as a distant comfort, but as the one who sees beyond my noise and into the pulse of what I truly carry. And somehow, that gaze is the gentlest thing I've ever known. I realize now that I've spent years believing that intimacy with you meant bringing something to you, an offering, a lesson, a revelation, a right posture of heart. But this night has taught me otherwise. It isn't what I bring that matters. It's what I allow you to see. And you have seen everything, without filter, without script, without preparation. And not only did you stay, you called this moment sacred. That changes something in me. It undoes the old rhythms of self-rejection. It undoes the subtle belief that I need to be more presentable to be lovable. It undoes the anxiety of being emotionally behind, as if my inability to pray out loud meant I was no longer close to you. But I have never been closer. Not because I reached for you, but because I finally let you reach for me in the raw, in the real, in the unspoken. And now, even as sleep draws near, I'm not racing to say something profound before it comes. I'm not scrambling to summarize what I've felt or label it with neat conclusions. I'm just letting it all be here. The heaviness that lightened without leaving, the sadness that softened without being solved. The silence that wrapped around me and somehow sounded like love. I thought prayer was something I had to do. But tonight, I'm learning that sometimes prayer is something I have to allow. A posture more than a sentence, a surrender more than a performance, a letting go of the need to say everything just right, and instead trusting that being here quietly and honestly is enough. So I let you carry the rest. I let you hold the feelings I still don't understand. I let you interpret the tremble in my breath and the weight in my chest. I let you love the version of me that couldn't bring herself to speak, but still showed up. I let you call this holy, not because it followed the rules, but because it was real. And I know that when I wake, you'll still be here. You won't have moved an inch. You won't love me less for the things I never said. You won't measure me by the prayers I didn't voice. You'll still see me, still understand, and so I let the silence close around me like arms. I let my last thoughts be quiet ones. Not conclusions, not goals, not apologies, just presence, just peace, just the quiet trust that has been building all night, whispering this truth. even in the softest dark, where everything dissolves into stillness, you remain, not like a flickering thought or passing warmth, but like foundation, like gravity, like breath. You are here, just as present as you were when the ache was loud, just as near now that my thoughts have gone quiet. There's no edge to your nearness, no moment when you begin to slip away. You stay, not because of what I offer, not because I'm praying well, but because you love me. And in this last stretch of night, when even my soul feels drowsy, that love becomes more than a comfort. It becomes the air I breathe. This silence is not empty. I can feel the weight of it now, not a heavy weight, not a burden, but a depth, a fullness, as if you've poured yourself into the space between my questions, between my unfinished sentences, between the places I thought were too hollow to hold you. You've made a sanctuary out of this unspoken place. And I find myself lingering here, not because I'm searching for more, but because for the first time in a long while, I don't need more. I don't need answers. I don't need insight. I just need this, to be known like this, to be quiet and still held, to be wordless and still seen. I don't feel rushed anymore. I don't feel behind. I don't feel like a prayer half spoken or a soul half healed. I just feel here, and for once, here is enough. My body has loosened its grip on the day. My heart has stopped arguing with its ache. My spirit no longer scrambles to find something meaningful to give, because you've already found meaning in my presence. You've already said, without words, that you'd rather have me undone and honest than polished and distant, and I believe you. I do. Even in the quiet, especially in the quiet. There's something sacred about this surrender, not the loud kind, not the kind where I raise my hands in victory or write it down in a journal. This kind is slower, gentler, deeper. It's a slow exhale of expectations, a release of the need to prove I'm growing, learning, moving. It's just being and knowing that you are here in the being, not just in the doing. You are not pacing outside my silence, waiting for me to return with better words. You are within it, deep within it, unfolding grace in the spaces I thought were barren. Even now, with my eyes closed and my mind drifting, you are not drifting. You are stillness itself, the center of every quiet, the soul of every breath, the still point in the turning world. I can rest, not because I've resolved everything, but because you're holding what I couldn't even begin to carry, and you're not waiting for me to pick it back up. You're not holding it temporarily. You're keeping it for as long as it takes, for as long as I need. I've tried to be strong in so many ways that didn't serve me. I've tried to fill the silence with effort, tried to wrestle peace out of the dark. But this is something else entirely. This is peace as gift. This is strength as surrender. This is rest, not earned, but offered. And I receive it now, not because I've done enough, but because you've given enough. Given yourself, your presence, your listening, your love. And I don't need to wrap this night with a conclusion. I don't need to name what was healed or what still hurts. I just need to stay, to breathe here, to close my eyes, knowing that nothing I've held back from language has been lost to you. You've heard it all, even in silence. You've seen it all, even in stillness, and you've loved me through it. Not because I could say it, but because you knew it. It's late now, later than I meant to stay awake. My body is starting to blur the line between awareness and rest, and even my thoughts, which usually circle endlessly, are growing soft around the edges. I don't know what's been prayed and what's just been felt tonight. I've stopped distinguishing between them. Somewhere along the way, the need to narrate this moment dissolved, and what's left is something slower, quieter, and more real than anything I could have crafted with words. Not because I figured something out, but because I stopped trying. I let the silence stay. I let you stay inside it, and in doing that, I found something more honest than any conclusion. Presence. Yours. Mine. Without striving. Without rehearsed meaning. I'm not sure where the need to explain myself went. Maybe it's still there somewhere beneath the surface. But it no longer holds the same urgency. I don't need to be understood to be loved. Not here. Not with you. Not whatever I couldn't put into sentences tonight. Whatever I hesitated to admit, even in the quiet of my own heart. It's no longer trying to push its way to the front. It's resting too. It's letting go. It's allowing itself to be unnamed and still carried. I think that's what I'm doing too, carrying nothing. Letting you carry it all, not in some dramatic act of surrender, but in the simplest, most exhausted way possible, by not holding it anymore. There are no fireworks in this. No sense of arrival. But maybe that's the point. Maybe not every moment with you is meant to be a turning point. Maybe some are meant to simply be, to be quiet, to be real, to be undemanding. Maybe trust isn't always bold or bright. Maybe it's this, a breath that doesn't need to be deep, a heart that no longer tries to wrap pain into insight, a night that ends not with closure but with companionship. I'm not asking for anything. I'm not reaching for a sign. I'm not waiting for a shift. If it comes, it will come. And if it doesn't, I'll still wake in the morning and you'll still be here. That's all I need to know. I can barely keep my thoughts steady now. They drift in and out like waves, unstructured, unforced. Nothing inside me feels polished, and for the first time, I'm not rushing to make sense of that. I don't need to create a feeling of peace. You're peace, and you're here, not in response to the clarity of my prayer, not in exchange for effort, but simply because you're the kind of God who doesn't leave when the room falls silent. I didn't always believe you'd stay when I had nothing left to say. I do now, not as a doctrine, but as a truth my body understands without needing to phrase it. This is not an ending. It's just the soft continuation of being with you, without formality, without rhythm, without resolution. Just being, just breath, just presence. The kind of presence that doesn't require anything of me. Not a final thought, not a proper goodbye, not even a whispered amen. You're still here. I'm still here. The night is still unfolding, and you are holding all of it. So, I'll let go of even this moment. I'll let go of needing to frame it. I'll let the silence stretch out beyond this final thought, not as a space to fill, but as a space already filled with everything that didn't need to be said for you to see it, and you saw it, and you stayed.